So for the Charles Schwab Challenge, if you didn't already know, well, let's start with one thing first. We're going to start with the golf course. If you didn't already know, the Charles Schwab Challenge is at Colonial Country Club. And Colonial is an old-timey golf course, if you want an old traditional golf course. It takes a lot of skill. It's a lot of methodical golf. So right away, the first thought that comes to mind is golfers who can piece together, like, they're very analytical, very strategic. That's a perfect fit for this golf course. You can see there's a lot of, I have a lot of preferred shot shapes when it comes to this golf course. You know, I'm saying there's a fade off the first tee and a fade on approach that's beneficial. Now, everything that you see on the screen isn't an end all be all. Like, a lot of people kind of come out, or they'll come at me and be like, yeah, you don't need to do that. You could just club down on the first hole and you don't have to hit a fade around. And that's true. You certainly could. You can play a golf course many different ways. I'm looking at scoring potential. And the closer you can get the ball to the hole on any given shot, the better it is for scoring possibilities. That's how the strokes gain stats are built, by the way. If you didn't already know that, that's how they're built. The closer you can get the ball to the hole, the better your previous shot was. So in order to do that on hole one, I consider you need to hit a fade off the tee box. Same applies for the approach shot. Hitting a fade will get you to most of the pin positions. So that's how I feel when it comes to looking at a golf course. I'm not going to sit here and bore you with a whole course breakdown and give you all these, you know, stats and facts and stuff like that that really don't pertain to fantasy golf. That's what a lot of people do with the breakdowns. I'm not going to do that. That's all you're going to get from me. Basically, what I'll do is show you kind of this little summary down here to let you know what kind of shots matter, what kind of shots don't. So take that with however you want. I mean, I would suggest pausing the video, maybe taking a screenshot. I'll keep it up here. If you're interested in this, that way you can have it. Otherwise, if not, you know, one thing to note is it's pretty fair. Looks like it's a shot shaper's golf course for the most part. Doesn't require that many different shot shapes, but being able to work the ball both directions, you know, in control, that's a huge factor about this. So those golfers that you know do work it both ways pretty efficiently, those are golfers that I think excel at this type of golf course. Wonderful thing about this, I had that written into the cheat sheet. So you see column P. So if you go check out the description of this video, you see cheat sheets there. It'll send you here to this site. I have shot shapes in here. Now, if you're wondering, why should I take your word for it? Well, I went to college for golf course management. I started my PGA membership by taking the PAT, passing it right away. I was a medalist for the PAT, which is your player ability test, by the way. So that is the PGA's way of telling everyone else I'm good enough to give lessons, which I do in my, you know, I'm not in the golf industry anymore, but I still give lessons on the side. It's a fun, I love giving lessons. So that's a fun thing for me. I use my eyeballs to analyze every single golfer here. I know their preferred shot shape, and that's what you see on the screen. Like, I know most of these golfers can shape it both directions, but when push comes to shove, if a golfer is going to choose a golf shot, it's the one you see on the screen. Now, I will say the last time I really dug into shot shapes was the beginning of this year, so there could be some changes, and if you do see any, let me know. But for the most part, I have most of the golfers' shot shapes on here that I have seen them hit. I have also heard broadcasters talk about their that is what these golfers' preferred shot shapes are. I've also heard some of these golfers say, I would rather hit this shot or that shot. Like Jordan Spieth, I would give you, although his preferred shot shape is a draw, he hits way more fades. So why don't we just give him a both? He likes to shape the shot, or shape golf balls both directions. And you can see that with some of these golfers. Like I've noticed Brian Harman shapes it both directions. He's a lefty that primarily hits a draw, but I've seen him successfully hit a fade, so that's why I have both. So that kind of applies for most of the golfers here. Now, some of them are incomplete. You know, Denny McCarthy, I'm pretty sure hits a fade, but I can't be fully certain on that. Same goes with Tom Hoagie. Yeah, there we go. I thought Hoagie was empty. I'm not sure what Minwoo Lee does. I'll be the first to admit I haven't really watched a lot of Minwoo Lee. I know he's talented. I know he can spanks the ball pretty far. I don't really know his preferred shot shape. But for most of these golfers, I have that. So going back to my kind of my golf course analysis when it comes to shot shapes, you know, like I said, some of these I just see the golf course in the way. And that's the other thing to go along with this is I look at every single golf course, whether it's from a satellite image or a flyover. Can't tell you what I did for the Charles Schwab Challenge. I did this last year, or maybe it was the year before. But it's the Colonial Country Club, not the Charles Schwab Challenge. It's the Colonial Country Club. So as I see it, as I would play it, I can see certain carry distances, and those carry distances, depending if there's a dog leg, that affects what shot shape that I'm considering is preferred. So I'm analyzing the golf course, trying to figure out what the shot shapes are. I also analyze the golf swings to let you know what type of shot shapes those golfers hit. So it's kind of a whole 1-for-1, you know, like I'm kind of giving you the preferred shot shapes as I see it and what those golfers' preferred shot shapes are. Now, if you wanted to know like what importance you should put on that, out of 100 points, I'd only put 5 at most. At most. To me, it's more of a tiebreaker. Because so hole 1 is a par 5, 565 yards. You can see it's a dogleg right par 5. A fade will help for tee shots over 300 yards, and going for the green will benefit for hitting from hitting a draw from the left side of the fairway. Otherwise, trees might get in the way on the right side. So the right side of the fairway, you know, kind of a little blocked by trees. If a golfer can position themselves to the left side of the fairway, they can hit any shot shape they want. Well, let's just say, for the sake of argument, they hit it in the middle of the fairway, or maybe they overfade it, and now they've got those trees to contend with on the right. A fade into the hole is going to be preferred. And that's why I have it like that. But the first shot off the tee, I think, is a fade. Now, a par 5, I want my golfers to have the ability to go for it in 2. I want an eagle opportunity. That's 8 points on DraftKings. That's something you got to consider. So the very first thing, hole number 1, a fade. So then when I go to the cheat sheet, which I'll pull up again, the first 3 golfers I have up here hit fades. You got Scheffler, you've got Finau, and Hovland hit fades. So does Morikawa, so the top 4. Max Homa, I know, can shot shape. He can shape it both directions, and let's just give him that. So he wouldn't be terrible. We have Jordan Spieth that can also shape it both directions. I don't really trust his fade as much as I trust his draw. But you can see a lot of these guys up here hit fades. Tommy Fleetwood, on the other hand, I can tell you right now, not very good at hitting fades. Check out the, the 2021 Honda Classic. Final hole, needed to hit a fade into the tucked right pin. Hit it in the water because he can't hit a fade. I mean, I'm not saying he can't, but it's not controlled. It's not efficient. And that's how I look. Most of these guys hit fades, so take this with a grain of salt. You know, you don't really have to, like I said, it's not an end-all be-all. It's just to help with preferred shot shapes. And again, you know, like the very first hole number 1's a par 5. I want an eagle opportunity. A guy who hits a draw, who hits in the rough, might not be able to get to the green in 2, which is fine. He can still get a birdie, no problem. But I want eagle. So that's kind of how I look at this. There's another par 5. By the way, this is a par 70. We'll get into the tournament fact sheets here shortly. But yeah, I think really that's the only hole that we really have to consider being a scoreable hole, something that we can get additional points from. So maybe this is the only hole that really matters, what kind of shot shape you really hit. Because a lot of these other approach shots don't really matter. And that's where scoring is really going to come into play. It's more on the approach. Of course, the off the tee puts you in position to get in a good spot to go for the green, you know. So it all matters. It does. It all matters. But obviously, the approach shot is the shot that leads into the hole or close to the hole for you to have an easier putt to make. Anyways, that's all what I have for kind of like the course breakdown. Now, just to give you a heads up, if you didn't already know this, you can go to the GC. Let's see, can I zoom in and scroll up? Can you see it? Yeah. So the GCSAA.org, you can go here, check the bottom of the website. You'll see tournament fact sheets. What's lovely about these tournament fact sheets, it'll tell you what the par is. It usually tells you what the stimp meter is. This week it did. Last week it did not at the PGA Championship. It can also show you where the golf course is located for weather. Obviously, you would type this into the weather, figure out, what's going to happen. Is it going to be windy? Is it going to be rainy? What's going, all that good stuff. These are all data points, by the way. That's one thing to always remember. That's what I think a lot of these DFS content creators forget to say. These are all data points. You can use these as data points in your research. So you wanted to use Texas tournaments as a research purpose. You certainly could. I really don't have any issue with that. See if the Texas boys play well in Texas. And if their shot, their strokes gain averages are better in Texas, why not give them a little boost in your guys' models? Might as well. Also look at par 70s that are, 7,200 yards and less. Or somewhere between maybe 71 and 7,300 yards, or you can even narrow it down from there. Maybe we go 7,150 to 7,250. See how golfers perform there. Maybe put the stimp meter in. You can also look at, average green size, 5,000 square feet. You'd use that as a data point. Really don't think it's that important, but if you wanted to, you can. It's there for you. That's why I like this sheet. You can do whatever you want with this. The big thing for me, though, when it comes to this sheet is looking at the turf grass. This will tell you a lot that you need to know when it just comes to agronomy. If you're looking at putting, you want to look at greens. What grass is on the greens? So if you really wanted to get narrow with your research, what you would do is look at bent grass greens. Even if you could go with short and fast greens, or not short as in short as in cut length, because this is pretty short. 1/10 of an inch is pretty short. If you wanted to use this, you certainly could. And maybe just put bent grass greens rolling at 12 to 13 inches, or feet, 12 to 13 feet. You could do that. That wouldn't be a huge issue, but it would just be for your putting stat, because when you look at everything else is Bermuda grass. Everything else, tees, fairways, rough. This is your approach. This is your around the green. Look at your Bermuda grass for those stats. But if you don't have access to go that narrow where you can look at putting on bent grass and approaches and around the green on Bermuda, here's what you do instead. You just look at average finishing position. I want a GPP doing that. You certainly can as well. It literally, as long as there's something to add a little bit of a boost to the golfers that are good on these surfaces, that's all that matters. You don't have to get super technical and really get narrow with your research. I'm not saying if you do want to do that, that's a bad thing. I'm just saying you don't have to. So if you want to do finishing position, by all means do so. I'm certainly not going to criticize you for doing that. There's also additional notes if you want. Not much here this week. You can look at the architect, which is another, by the way, data point. Whether you want to look at John Bredemus or Perry Maxwell, you probably want to use Perry Maxwell over John, but again, it's a data point. Now, if I was giving you 100 points, I'd say maybe put 1 or 2 points into this. If it was Pete Dye, I would say put 10 points into it, because Pete Dye makes his golf course a certain way. There are other architects that are like that. I don't think Perry Maxwell is one of them. So I'd put a point, maybe 2 points out of 100 into it. That's just kind of telling you how important I think that is. That kind of covers the golf course and half of the tournament information. Let me give you the last piece of the tournament information. Your strength of field, as I have it calculated right now, is 452. I believe the field is set. Matthias Schwab was the last person in. He doesn't offer anything to the strength of field points, but 452 is pretty healthy. You can already see we have some names here: Scotty Scheffler, Tony Finau, Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Max Homa. These are good golfers. Let's just pretend Colin Morikawa is within the top 20. I guess we have Jordan Spieth. I'm looking at the wrong number. Sorry, I'm looking at the FedEx Cup. OWGR, right here. We've got, 8 golfers? 8 golfers inside the top 20. That's pretty healthy. It's a pretty good strength of field. So it's pretty challenging. Now, this is another data point. If you want Use 425 to 475, or maybe 425 to 500. Let's just err on the side of more difficult. The higher the number, the more difficult the strength of field is. I would use that as a data point. And if I was giving you 100 points, maybe put 5 towards it. I think that's fine too. So that's kind of how I feel about, strength of field. The other thing to note is there's 120 golfers in the field, which means 6-6 rate should be a little easier this week. A lot of these golfers are in play, by the way. A lot of these golfers down here in the low 6K range, they're in play. You can see I have Matthias Schwab down here. I don't have a price tag for him just yet, and I don't think he's even available on the cheat sheet, but he is in the field, just so you know. Doesn't look like he really offers a lot of value. Like he's pretty low in my sweet spot ranks. So for the time being, we'll see when I add everything in, if it goes up or not. I don't think it will. I think he'll still be like 112th ranked golfer in the field. But yeah, 120 golfers should be easier for people to get 6-6 through the cut. I would almost advocate for, if you're in GPPs, to go you're going to grab one of those 6K golfers down there all day, every day. If you want to differentiate yourself from other people, one of those 6K, we'll go over pass optimal and GPP winning lineups pretty soon, but that's how I would build a lineup if you're trying to take down a GPP. Cash lineups, I think it's going to be a little easier to make 6-6 through the cut this week. Now, if your cash lineup is like a league lineup, you're still going to have to find a little bit difference with other people in your league, because a lot of people probably have the same idea that you do. And that's essentially all that I have. We'll talk about salaries here soon. Scotty's $800 more than Finau. That's worth consideration, because when it was just Scheffler and Finau at the Byron Nelson, Finau was your man. Or was it Finau? I can't remember who was at the Byron Nelson. I want to say it was Finau. No, it was Tyrrell Hatton. My bad. It was Tony Finau and John Rahm at the Mexico Open. Where Finau where Rahm and Scheffler were over 11K, and then the next guy was in the 10K range. Now we got a few more 10K golfers to consider, so it's not quite a 1-for-1 comparison to those tournaments, but something to consider nonetheless. Anyways, that is all that I have for the tournament and golf course information.